Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast.
It's that time of year again, everybody. Welcome to the Football Forecast, and welcome to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network's preview for the 2024 NFL season. This is the first of three parts here for our NFL preview. Today, we're going to put a focus on the NFC, their divisions, their teams, and talking about what the expectations should be and just what they all need to do to have a successful season and potentially hoist up the conference championship trophy to make it to Super Bowl 59. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Albano, and joining me, I've got two of my cohorts on the MMA Outsiders, and, of course, Grant Winsauer. So, Zain Bando to my right. Below me is Pat Danna, and then to the bottom right of me, diagonal of me, Grant Winsauer.
Hey, everybody.
Who you can see, you can view his blogs over at the ETB website. Guys, we are here to preview the NFC teams. It's kind of funny how it falls this way, but there's 8 people as part of Football Forecast. 4 of us, which is the 4 of us, are NFC team fans, and you'll probably see the 4 AFC team fans on tomorrow's portion of the 2024 NFL preview. Those are the AFC team fans that you'll meet. But we are here, guys, to preview the NFC. And, I mean, here we are. It's the start of another season. Preseason games just finished wrapping up over this past weekend. And I'm excited, guys. It's always an exciting time when the NFL comes around.
Agreed.
Yeah, this season looks to be interesting. I know last season had a lot of disappointments from the various perspectives. I'm hoping this season kind of makes up for what we missed last season.
Hope so, too. There was a lot of parity near the end of the season. We had a wonderful Super Bowl, which I correctly predicted the 2 teams. I did not get one half of the prediction correct in terms of the winner, but I'm hoping to make it back-to-back correct Super Bowl predictions in a row, and I'm hoping, just like my colleague to my bottom right, that our hometown team can continue on their trajectory of a franchise turnaround, considering that we just got the number 1 overall pick. So it should be a very, very exciting 2024. Maybe some interesting surprises as every NFL season brings, and should be a lot of exciting upsets. But overall, I'm very much looking forward to diving in September. Cannot get there fast enough. That's for sure.
Yeah, you guys
on that too.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of good expectations for your team. I don't know if Pat and I can say the same for ours. I think we're going to hold off on in-depth comments because the Giants will be one of the first teams that we talk about. But before we do any of that, just a reminder to make sure you are following us across social media. I know last year when we had Football Friday, we just used all the Empty the Bench Podcast Network social media. That has changed. We now have our own social media per this new show at TFB Forecast, ETB. So make sure you're following us there. Of course, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, where we've just passed the 860 subscriber mark. It's funny how fast this is continuing to climb, but hopefully by the end of this year, we do get to our 1,000 goal. And, of course, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the YouTube Premium, so much more. Make sure to follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, by the way, on social media before I forget, at ETB Network. And, yes, the ticker for these streams, or should I say these shows, are going to be a little longer here because they include all of our other shows that we have here at the Empty the Bench Network, which, of course, for Zain Bando and I, MMA Outsiders ETB, for Nick Morganson and I, ETB Sports, Bando's Breakdown. You can see them all across the scroll ticking along here, but we would be remiss if we did not also mention at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, whether it be Football Forecast or any other shows on the network, is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together, with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. We will have a fantasy football stream coming up on Playback. We're going to do a little 8-team mock draft, and we will talk about, everything that's going on with the, from the fantasy end of things. But we're not here for the fantasy end of things. We'll maybe mention some fantasy stuff here, but we're here for the actual football that's going to be played on the field. So we've got 16 NFC teams to talk about, 4 teams per division. We got 4 divisions to go through. And every time we have a football preview show, it seems, this allows me the opportunity to bring this bad boy that I always seem to make out. Yes, little Google slide presentation, if you will. So, again, we're going to go through all 16 NFC teams. Nick Morganson, Ben Cruz, I believe Nick DiMartino, Anthony Ballister will all tomorrow go through the AFC teams. But for now, we are going to start with the NFC. We're going to do things a little different this year. So when we had Football Friday, what we did, we always started with the West, and we always made our way over to the East, so that way, because we were mostly, if not all back then, New York sports fans, so we always saved our team for last. We're not going to do that this time. We're going the inverse. We're starting with the NFC when we traditionally always start with the AFC, and we're going to start with the East. Doing things a little different, different rebranding, different branding, different show. We're going to go with a little different here. So we're going to start with the NFC East. I did mention, like Pat had said, because we're always going to go from whoever finished last to whoever finished first in each division. That's why I said the Giants will come early. But before we get to the Giants, we have to talk about the commies first. We have to talk about the Washington Commanders. Obviously, a lot of talk around this team. They got one of the 6 QBs coming out of the draft in Jaden Daniels. Some other potential draft selected players that could make an impact. You got tight end Ben Sinnott. You got 3rd round draft pick wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, the brother of course, the great CMC. And you can see all the different changes, a lot of moving pieces going on with the Commanders. Jahan Dotson just got traded. Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett, are out. As we mentioned, Jaden Daniels is in. Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel on the move. And in come the likes of Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, legendary tight end, of course, a little up there on the older side of things. And they actually built up their lines a bit. You got Dante Fowler Jr. on edge. You got Bobby Wagner coming over from Seattle. So overall, guys, just whoever wants to go first, what do you make of the Washington Commanders, let's say, makeover, and do you think it's going to make any impact in this coming season?
I guess I'll start. They have some interesting picks. I mean, I think they got the quarterback that they wanted. Adding Johnny Newton from what was the best red zone defense in the country in Illinois a couple of years ago, that doesn't hurt either. And when you bring in some veteran names like Zach Ertz, who obviously had success on the Eagles, when you bring in a guy like Bobby Wagner, who's had experience playing in big end games with Seattle, especially in the playoffs, there's definitely some interesting names on this slide here. But overall, I think this is a work in progress team. This is a team that it's going to take at least 3 to 4 years for them to find their footing. Obviously, you don't expect rookie quarterbacks to be superstars right away. That certainly isn't the case every single year. I mean, look at what happened last year with Anthony Richardson on the Colts and how that whole season played out for them. It was a very wild year, but the Commanders simply aren't the Colts. And even though they have talent, I don't think they have enough talent to compete in what I think will be a rugged NFC East with a lot of star power in Philadelphia and Dallas. So I think let's just say this: the Commanders did the best that they could. I think it's just going to take a little bit. So
I think Zahn hit it spot on with all of his points there. I mean, the Washington Commanders were very high on offensive coordinator Ben Johnson from the Lions, and he told them last minute that he wasn't going to take the job. So they had to pivot to Dan Quinn. But I will give him credit. He does build a very good staff. But I agree with Zahn about them being a couple of years away. I would say that Jaden Daniels, has some pieces, but he's missing, probably a standout wide receiver one. And, they just lost Jahan Dotson, who, wasn't that great, but also didn't play with a great quarterback. So that's probably playing into that. I would say, their record from last year was 4-13.
Yep.
I could see them getting maybe 1 or 2 more wins next year. This year.
For the record, sorry to interrupt, Graham. For the record, the over-under for the Commanders, according to DraftKings, as of the time that we were putting everything together early this morning, 6.5.
I would say that's about right.
That's about perfect.
Yeah,
that's going to be close though. Especially for some people who might have the over, that's gonna be close.
Yeah, it's gonna be intensely close. Grant, the only counter I would make to what you said, you're talking about no legit wide receiver one. So, in your mind, scary Terry McLaurin is not that?
He's just not great. He's a wide receiver one. He's just not great, is what I'm saying.
He's like he's like a B wide receiver one.
Yes.
Okay. Pat, anything you want to add on before I get my take?
Well, I just love what Grant and Zain both talked about. I mean, the Dan Quinn hiring and not getting Ben Johnson has really changed how we've talked about the team this offseason. If this was a Ben Johnson ran team, we might be thinking about it in a different light in terms of potential. They also kind of just built around Jaden Daniels. They took Daniels, but they didn't just, say, okay, we have our new quarterback of the future. They got rid of Dotson. They got rid of Howell. They got rid of Samuel. They got rid of a bunch of offensive linemen, and then they brought in new guys to replace these guys. I think what Zain said, they are slowly building. This team is going to slowly be good. Just it's not going to be this year. And I would agree, they're a 6-7 win team this year.
And I mean, also just to piggyback off that, to bring in Nick Allegretti, who's won 3 Super Bowls in a 5-year span with the same team, is pretty remarkable. So it's clear that the Commanders know that they have to bring in these veterans, otherwise they won't be able to compete. So
and one thing I do want to throw in quick, as a Giants fan, I thought the Commanders had one of the best drafts.
I think so too. And like you guys said, they didn't just select a quarterback, they built around him. Now, some of those offensive pieces do have some questions. There's no doubt Austin Eckler, this is the talk around, just fantasy, and especially in Dynasty and everything else. Bad drop-off last season. You got to hope that maybe that was because the Chargers were having their own drop-off and he can rebound in Washington. But when you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, I don't know if he can ever get to that superstar level that he was while he was with the Chargers. Zach Ertz, how many steps away from retirement is he? Now, fortunately, they did answer that, as I mentioned, in the draft when they selected Ben Snott. And I would not be surprised, guys, and I'm not just saying this because I have him on a dynasty team, but I would not be surprised if Ben Snott did not start to already make a little bit of an impact and make a little bit of noise, maybe usurp Zach Ertz as this season goes on.
Well, Tom, to add to another huge question regarding Eckler is, can Austin Eckler stay healthy? It's a very big question.
Well, the other massive question there is, what's the split going to look like? They still have Brian Robinson, like they're going to have Eckler, Brian Robinson, and Jaden Daniels all in that backfield causing havoc. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays
it's going to be interesting it's going to be interesting to see the divide. You are very right. And guys, I'm with you on it's going to take some time, because I didn't just say that when it came to this team with this roster. I also said that like last year when the ownership changed hands. Remember, the Washington Commanders are still trying to wash off the stink of their old owner, whose name shall not be named here. They're trying to get all of that stink off. They are trying to showcase the new ownership. Is trying to show, this is a different team, to the point where there was even a debate about if the Commanders' name was even going to stay. Like you guys said, I think we're all in agreement here. They're doing a fine job so far. It's going to take some time, and they need to keep up the momentum that they're picking up here with this draft. That said, I'm agreeing with you guys. I don't think, I think it's going to be a little too close to comfort. I see this team being 5-6 wins, something along those lines. I think the floor is they have the same record of 4-13. I think their max is a 6-11.
Yeah.
So you don't think they could pull off a 7th game in there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So are we all in agreement then that the Commanders will finish last in the NFC East in 2024?
I'm going to say their ceiling is probably tied for last, if not maybe one game above it.
Yeah, okay. Tied for last is a good.
Are we all in agreement though that we're going under?
Yes.
The under on the win total is 6.5. Yeah, I would say so. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's now go on. All right, let's get this out of the way.
I will
get this done.
By the way, I will go after Tom for this one just to get off what I need to say. But Tom, go ahead, take us off here.
Going at okay. I was gonna say, wait, what did I do?
No, nothing.
Okay, let's run through. So obviously, they got Malik Neighbors. They lost a lot of pieces. Darren Waller has wrapped his way, and I mean he wrapped his way out to retirement. Tyrod Taylor is backup QB gone. Sterling Shepard, the last remaining piece from that 2010s era of the Giants, got.
Oh.
Who hit that?
I didn't do that. My bad.
Okay.
If I did, I'm sorry. I was just trying to. There you go.
Paris Campbell gone after not doing much. A few pieces from that Giants defense of last year. Xavier McKinney, Adoree Jackson now gone. But the Giants landing one of, I think, the impact trades of the offseason prior to the draft, the acquisition of Brian Burns, who Carolina managed to absolutely fumble away. I cannot wait till we talk about Carolina so I can drag them through the mud. Landing Jalen Mills, landing a couple pieces here and there. Saquon out, Devin Singletary in. Drew Lock is in now. Dale Johnson now drafted as tight ends to compete alongside Bellinger. Tyrone Tracy, Eric Ray from last season making an impact a little bit in the preseason. So look, here's all I'm going to say about this team. It doesn't look great, and maybe some of this is why I said the Commanders. I was a little questioning about them getting the 7th win. It is because the NFC East teams are going to be playing the AFC North teams this year. And the AFC North is a brutal division when you consider all the talent in that division. They are playing the NFC South too, but I'll have my own little things to say. I'm not going to say it now. I'm going to wait till Thursday when we do the hot takes portion of our preview is released, so I can talk more about that then. But look, I get why some of the pieces that have come in. It is because of our head coach Brian Daboll and the time that he had over at Buffalo. You think about some of these former Buffalo pieces: Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie. These are all guys who played under that group over in Buffalo. Did they have success? Yes, but I don't know if the success can be found here. That said, we always had debates when we were previewing the Giants in the past few years about who was under pressure. If it was Saquon Barkley, given his first-round status and all of his injuries, if it was the coaches and such. I don't think there is any question, and hopefully, Pat, you agree with me. The one person that the spotlight is on this year, it's Danny. There can't be a question now.
No, there is no question. I mean, it's been, I mean, for a couple of years now, it's felt like the question was all on him. But this year is this is where the rope ends. You know what I mean? If you can't do it this year, if you can't give us something, then we're probably not bringing you back. I don't know how we could bring you back.
No.
I like what we've done with our offensive line. I really do. I think it's actually in decent shape compared to where it's been. The problem is the injuries. We know the injuries are coming, and it's just who they're going to come to and when they're going to happen.
I was going to say the offensive line struggles, and New York football teams go together like peanut butter and jelly.
It's
every
horrible.
year. And I'm not just talking us. I'm talking about the Jets too, which they'll get on the AFC. Every time it seems like there's a problem with New York football, it always boils down to the offensive line. And you would think that maybe Danny, when we acquired him, the fact that he scrambled versus Eli, that maybe some of that could have been improved, but it doesn't seem to be so. The offensive line collapsing is why he got injured last season. And the Giants cannot afford for him to get injured again, because according to his contract, if he gets injured, next year activates automatically, which means you have an out after this season to get out of the other $80 million or so. If he gets hurt, you're stuck with him. If he gets another season-ending injury, you're stuck with him. And if you go the route of getting another quarterback in the draft or a veteran holdover, then you're going to have a quarterback controversy going into next season. So, I always said the one defense against Danny was you don't have a playmaker. You just got Malik Neighbors, arguably the best wide receiver.
The playmaker. I love Neighbors, man.
There is no more excuses at this point. Now, here's my question before actually we get into Zain and Grant's takes. Pat, if the Giants have another unsuccessful season, like let's say they go 6-11 again or 5-12, do you fire Dable and Shine?
No, I can't. I still believe in them. Even if we have a bad season, I still believe in the ability that they showed us early. That team that they took to the playoffs wasn't a team that should have made it to the playoffs. So
exactly.
Not
just made it to the playoffs, made it to the final 8.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. We were one of the 8 best teams in football that year. And it's kind of crazy to look back on and think.
And Pat, just to add on, because I agree, I don't know if you fired the two of them, that's your third general manager third head coach and fourth general.
Just restarting over.
Coach, right, fourth head coach and third general manager in 5, 6, 7 years. You can't expect success. You can't expect success with that. And
exactly,
Daniel Jones was not their quarterback. They inherited him from another regime.
Very true.
You got to give them a chance. If Danny is not the answer, then you got to give them a chance
to draft their guy this offseason.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. Also, just let me throw out, I think we have one of the best D-lines in football. I love our defensive line. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, come on. That is a wrecking machine of a defensive line.
That's where you're gonna find the success this season.
This is where that defense is gonna dictate how good we are. And our secondary does seem weaker right now, but our D-line and linebacking core looks to be pretty solid, and they're going to dictate a lot of games for us this year.
All right, Zain and Grant, whichever one. Yeah.
Sure, I'll go first. I'm taking a quick glance at the Giants' schedule on my other screen, and I have to say this, and it's gonna be wild to say because it's a 17-game season. But if you look holistically at the Giants' first 4 games, if you guys can start 2-2, that's a huge positive considering who you guys play, and you also get the benefit of having your first NFC East test against the same Commanders team that we just discussed. So anything 2-2 or above, potentially 3-1 going into a stretch that includes Cleveland and Dallas in back-to-back weeks, you better be feeling pretty good come late September, early October that maybe the Giants could win 6 games. But if you guys don't go 2-2 to or the season it's going to be in for a long year. That's what I think. What do you guys think?
And actually, Zan, I'm actually going to agree with you because you're starting the season with Minnesota, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but their quarterback situation, their whole team basically this offseason went to hell. And then Washington, who New York always seems to manage to win games against in a division that, they seem to struggle with divisional wins. So I feel like for the best kind of success this season, you're right. They got to start 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Grant, if you want to have anything to add.
I mean, you guys brought up some very good points. I believe that their defensive line is going to be great with Brian Burns and, Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think you could fire either Shane or Dable. It's just, I have believed this ever since he was drafted. Daniel Jones is not your answer. I mean, when he came into the draft, I thought he was a second round pick at best. I never thought that he was a top 10 draft pick, but that was their best option because Eli was like on the verge of retiring, and they didn't like any of the people that were coming out the year after. But I don't think you did enough to make him your long-term answer. So I would say that they, regardless of what happens, they should try to get out of the Daniel Jones contract at the end of the offseason.
Well, so Grant, are you saying that with you saying that Daniel Jones is not the answer in New York, do you think, regardless of what happens, that this will be his final season in East Rutherford?
Yes, I do.
Even if let's say they pull off another miracle run in 22 and make the playoffs.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
You think over?
If that happens, probably not. But you
just don't see it happening.
Which
is very fair. Very fair.
Yeah, very fair. The over/under, by the way, is 6.5 for the Giants. I'm going to go under. I'm actually going to go one step further. I think they matched the record. I think it's 6-11.
I think that's a spot on take. I
was going to say we're like a 5-win team. Looking at our schedule, I can see us squeaking out a sixth win.
I was going to say, I think Minnesota's injuries have kind of changed that. That was a guaranteed loss, and now I think that's turning into a win. I think 6 is going to be the max, though. Again, I'm going to save that for the hot take episode because I have a theory as to how the season in Daniel Jones is going to play out. That said, I'll preview it by saying I do agree with Grant. Unless a miracle happens, it's the last season. And then I think what's going to happen is Brian and Joe are basically going to either look at the quarterback class for 2025, weak as it seems right now, to make their selection, even if it means trading up in the draft, or they're going to throw a lot of money at somebody who's going to be a free agent like a Brock Purdy or a Dak Prescott.
Sorry.
I think between the two that you mentioned, Tom, I think Dak Prescott is the more likely available person.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
I would concur with that. I'm going to actually go with the 7-10 record. I think that one of their 7 wins is going to be the upset of the week in late October when they go to Pittsburgh and upset the Steelers.
Oh man, like the Steelers playing down to their competition and it cost them like usual.
100%. Yeah. And just considering, even though I'm not going to be a part of it, the Steelers are my second favorite team. It's always late October, early November where Pittsburgh loses one of those games where you go, how in the world did they lose that one?
So I'm gonna have a semi-hot take that kind of goes along with what Zan said too.
That's gonna be the one. Go ahead, Pat.
I have a semi-hot take that goes along perfectly with what you said. So I think that we could win 7 games if we win one of our last 4. Our last 4 are against the Ravens, Falcons, Colts, and Eagles. If we can win one of those 4, we can be a 7-win team, I think, or more. If we can win more of those games.
And again, I'm going to agree, but I need to save the take.
Yeah,
it's a big take that I have at the end of our preview. Not this one. At the end of the one that'll air on Thursday, the one we're recording Wednesday night.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be a little bit of it could be a shell shock.
Interesting. Okay.
All right.
But let's move on to our rivals over at Philadelphia, the Eagles, and this is a team. Let's be honest, that has lost of everybody here in the football forecast as part of Football Friday last year. A lot of faith was lost in the Eagles after, let's just call it one of the worst collapses we have ever seen from a team. I mean, they pick up, a couple of pieces here and there. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the second Jeremiah Trotter for their defense. A bunch of defensive pieces in the draft. Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox on the out. DeAndre Swift, Boston Scott, thank God, on the out. As a Giants fan, Boston Scott is gone.
Right, the unofficial Giant killer.
Yeah. They just traded for Jahan Dotson. They acquired Devontae Parker, Kenny Pickett. Now they're back up. Saquon, although the injury talks have already started. Picking up a couple of key defensive pieces, though. Devin White, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Look, this team has a lot of potential. And I think Jalen Hurts has done so much for this team in a couple of seasons. I have said ever since he was drafted in 2020, when people were doubting on him, I had believed. I said, you need to give Jalen Hurts time. And he eventually led him to a Super Bowl appearance. Last year, amazing start, 10-1, and just all the pieces around just fell apart.
Yeah, all of the pieces around him just fell apart, not to mention the fact they only needed to win one game to assured themselves a chance at winning the NFC East, and then they lost to the Arizona Cardinals, and the whole thing blew up.
They almost, Zan, after starting whatever it was, 10-1, they lost almost all of their games. The one game that they won was against the Giants on Christmas, and they nearly choked that one.
Yep.
And then the Giants beat them in the last week of the season too.
Yep. Yeah, they started 10-1, and then what did they lose? 5 out of their last 6. It was unreal.
And then lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, to a Tampa Bay team that was next to okay at best. So when looking at the Eagles, this is a very tumultuous team because they were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. From what I remember, I believe on last year's Football Friday show, even though I came in late, I had predicted the Eagles to win the NFC East. I was wrong there, and as were
most of us.
Most of us were wrong. I mean, I guess I'll just say, you're going to have one of those down years. It's not a Super Bowl hangover because they didn't win it, but I'm sure that there were a couple games where they looked past and they're like, oh, we fully don't really need to worry about this one, and it came back to bite them. Kind of like what I did for the Giants, just looking at the Eagles' schedule, it's a gauntlet of a schedule. You got to go to Brazil to play a Packers team that's much improved in the first week of the season on a Friday. You got to host the Atlanta Falcons with a new quarterback. You have a Saints team that might be better. You have a Tampa Bay team that's seeking more domination from last year's wildcard playoff loss. It is a brutal month of September and early October for Philadelphia. If it can get out of it unscathed with maybe 3 or 4 losses, they'll have a chance to make the playoffs. But if they can't get off on the wrong foot, it'll also be another 1 year again where Philadelphia won't make the playoffs. But when you look in the grand scheme of things, though, when you look into the month of October and November, the schedule actually ends up getting a little bit easier. So you win a couple of divisional games early in the season, then you close with a couple of divisional games near the end. You might be looking at a borderline, 9-8 team, a potential division title contender. But at the very least, I think that his team could be a wild card again, or that he could shock everyone by winning 13 games. You just never know. So
Zan, since you brought it up already, the Eagles, their over under is 10.5, and DraftKings predict as of the over under rankings, as I have them, DraftKings predicts them to win the NFC East.
Interesting.
which is wild considering, last season. I can't believe, and Grant, I don't know if maybe you want to start with it, but I can't believe Nick Sirianni managed to keep his job after the collapse they had.
I can't either.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. I mean, I thought that they were going to move on, but I mean, when you look at the list of key additions and key departures is basically the same as in terms of people, but like you add, a great running back in Saquon Barkley to an already stellar rushing backfield with Jalen Hurts. I mean, you could have probably added a couple better receivers. I don't necessarily think that Dotson and Parker are the greatest options, but Dotson will probably be a good number 3 there behind Smith and Brown. I like Bryce Huff for them. They needed another edge rusher. The question is, or the question that I have is, with the departure of Jason Kelce, will the tush push work for them? Because he was honestly probably the guy that made it most successful.
Yeah, the talk of Hall last season, that play, the push tush. Which is basically a quarterback sneak, so I don't know why we're trying to ban it.
Right.
They just learned how to do it in a way that teams hadn't tried it yet, and now it's a problem because it's working.
That's like they didn't think of putting the hands on the backside of their QB.
So one thing I do want to throw out here. So in the key additions, we brought up Devontae Parker. He was technically a key addition and key departure because he retired before playing at all for them. So they had Devontae Parker come over.
Oh, I forgot to put that note. I forgot to put that note there. Yeah, because I actually have a couple of notes for some of these guys who
he was technically both this offseason. He was an addition and a departure. So, but for guys like that, those weren't high impact players anyways. And I think they got a couple lower impact players, Jahan Dotson, Aquara, Burks, lower impact guys. But then in the departures, you got Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Avonte Maddox, Kevin Byard. They lost some good pieces. But Zain did say it. I think their second half of the season schedule is a lot better than their first half of the season schedule. And we could see a reverse of last year where they start the year 6-5, 5-6, and everyone's like, whoa, what's going on? And then they finish with the same record they finished with last season.
I am in agreement. I have just over. I think they finish 11-6 again.
Yep, me too.
I think that's a good prediction there.
I think they finished second in the NFC East, so I'm in agreement.
Yeah. So I guess we're all in agreement there. I mean, I think we're hopeful. I think we're all hopeful, as I say, hopeful as a Giants fan. It kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. But I think we're all hopeful that the struggles and the sudden collapse of last season does not reflect the kind of team that this is. Now, if they manage to struggle, even with an easier schedule, there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding Nick Sirianni. There's going to be a lot of questions surrounding the team in general, and it's just going to look like a nightmare. All right. One more team in the NFC East that we got to get through.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? So the defending division champions who, they brought Ezekiel Elliott back. They brought Eric Hendrickson. They lost some pieces, Pollard, Gallup, Gilmore, Pierce, Van Der Esch. They're all gone. Fowler Jr. is gone, as we talked about before. Picked up a couple of pieces here and there. But the question, so as of the time we're recording this, guys, it is Monday afternoon, the 26th. And you look at key departure and you look at that top center. There is a big question right now. What is the fate of CeeDee Lamb? Because the fate of CeeDee Lamb, I think, could be a big determiner, a big factor for this team, as in, can the Cowboys be that kind of 12, 13 win team that they were last season, or if they're going to give way to the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe reclaiming the division. So I think the question at this
Go ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, I didn't.
And I was going to
mean
say, Zan, I think the question at this point is CeeDee Lamb going to come back?
Yeah, I was just gonna allude to it. I think if CeeDee Lamb does return to Dallas, this is a 13-win team. This is a team that has a chance to be really, really good if everybody can stay healthy and he returns to Dallas. If he doesn't, it could be a very, very interesting and very, very nail-biting down to the wire week 17, week 18 potential playoff elimination scenario. You name it. So
and then the other thing that Nick Borgeson actually brought up last week on ETB Sports, this is a guy who's going in basically. He's going in cold turkey, no training camp or anything if he comes back. So he's going to have all that adjustments, all that training during the regular season. So I personally think he does come back. They work something out. Schefter, Yates, they're all talking about it. But I think there's a chance he may miss or underperform in a game or two as he's trying to get back in playing shape.
That could be the case too, or you could see him, who could see him just simply get limited snaps in the first couple of games because they probably won't know how ready he actually is to compete. So
one thing I want to say about the CD situation, you did say, Tom, that he's not in training camp, which is true. He's not in training camp with the team and everything, but he's been working. He's been getting his work in this offseason. He has actually been helping his cousin, Keon Coleman, who plays on the Buffalo Bills, get ready for his rookie season. So I think CD will show up in shape. Maybe just, maybe a little unfamiliar with the Cowboys playbook for the new year if it changes a little bit, but I think CD is going to be fine, and I think he will be back in Dallas. Honestly,
do you guys think that this whole CeeDee Lamb thing is him being a prima donna, or do you think he's justified for sitting out as long as he has?
It's the wide receiver market at the moment. Look at all the receivers that got massive contracts this offseason. CD looks at what he did last season and says, "Damn, I had one of the best wide receiver seasons in a bit." I think I could get paid that kind of money, and I can't blame him.
And don't forget something, guys. Dak Prescott really needs him too, because this is a contract year for Dak Prescott. If he does not have CeeDee Lamb, he does not put up the numbers that he did last season with CeeDee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If they lose CeeDee or Dak and don't immediately replace them, this team is in a bad spot.
Especially after losing. I mean, guys, look at all the, like we just talked about, all the pieces that they lost. Pollard's gone, Gallup's gone, Gilmore's gone, Kearse is gone, Van Der Esch is gone, Fowler's gone.
Half their offensive line's gone.
Right.
It's like
and their defensive pieces,
including an all-pro tackle.
Yep,
it's huge. Yeah.
And like Tom and everyone said, the key departures are way outweigh the key additions, and I just have to bring it up because at the beginning of the off season, Jerry Jones said he was all in on this team, and
then did nothing in free agency.
The key additions do not show that. I mean, if you want to talk about an all-in person, give CeeDee Lamb a damn contract. But, and I excuse me with the language, I'm sorry, but seriously, he deserves what he wants to get. But I also have to say, it's been reported that Jamar Chase wants a 4-year, $160 million contract.
But he just showed back up to camp. He's willing to play through everything.
That's true. But, I don't know if Chase is waiting for CD to sign his contract or, because usually what happens with that is, okay, let's say CD signs something that's 40 for 4, that's 160. Chase would want probably 42 or something.
He'd want 40.1 million. He'd want something more.
And that's the thing. Yeah. You have a showdown on two ends. You have one with CD and Jamar Chase in terms of the positional and the best value there. And in terms of the team, like I just mentioned, you got one with CD and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and it's been going on all offseason because the whole Ayuk situation, when Amon Ra got signed, Ayuk was like, I want that contract. And then it's like, oh, well, we don't want to give you that, but we can give you this. No, I want that. And then Jefferson signing early really screwed things up. That's what changed everything was Jefferson getting his deal done
true.
Yeah.
first. Because he said, because he
true.
finally put his foot down and he said, I'm done waiting. I'm going to sign this contract. It's going to be probably better than what the rest of them will get. And I'm just going to take the risk that it is. And most of these teams aren't willing to pay what the Vikings paid Jefferson. So it looks like he made the right decision at least.
But the problem is, and you guys kind of refer to it, Grant, you just mentioned, you talk about an all-in team. If they don't get one of either CD or Dak back next season, or even worse, they lose both, you're looking going from an all-in team to looking down to the barrel of a potential rebuild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, guys, the DraftKings list them as a 9.5. I think over though. I think this is.
I think so too. The Cowboys have always been good. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be 12-5. My prediction is probably like 10-7, maybe 11-6.
I think if they manage to work out everything with CD and Dak, you're looking at a 12-win team again. If not,
agreed. I'm just saying hypothetically, if CD Lamb does not show up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this too. Oh, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
And like I said, I think there's a potential there. Now with the playoffs, this is a team that significantly struggles in the playoffs, but if you're not going to pay Dak or you're not going to pay CD or whatever, this is basically a season where you have to win it. And the key additions just don't show me that this is an all-in team.
Oh,
it's
no.
It's not.
So just to piggyback off what you guys said, I actually agree with the line. I think they're a 9-10 win team. And I think they've gotten significantly worse in terms of the departures. I don't think they did enough to make up for it. I mean, we see the key additions. The draft picks, I was not impressed with their draft at all. Guyton might be good, but other than that, maybe BB, I don't know. But I was not impressed with their draft. I was obviously not impressed with their free agency additions. It was very disappointing to see how many people left in free agency. And they went 12-5 last year. I could see those departures being a 2-3 win difference without like thinking too deep into it. Also, looking at their schedule, they got the Commanders and the Giants on their schedule, so you could, twice, so they could get some easy wins there. That schedule is horrendous outside of those divisional matchups. They have to play Baltimore, Houston, Detroit, San Fran, Atlanta, Cincinnati, and then Philly twice.
Well,
this is a team that has potential to lose a lot of games, actually.
Well, keep in mind something, Pat. Everybody in the division has to play those NFC North teams.
No, for sure. It's just looking at those matchups, I'm just like, with all these departures, the Cowboys don't stack up too great against some of these teams that have the defenses to keep up with theirs, and then the offenses to push theirs through.
I could see that argument. I'm going to go out and make a bit of a bold prediction before we get into who we think is going to win the division. I think the NFC East championship game is going to come down to that game after Christmas in Philadelphia between Dallas and the Eagles. That's what I think.
That late December game, yeah.
That Week 17 matchup, yeah, I could see that.
That's going to be that's going to be the NFC East championship. So we'll see.
All right. That said,
let's continue.
Yeah, that said, let's quickly make a division pick to move on. I am going to be in the belief that they will work something out and Dallas will end up getting the division. That said, I will use one of my 3 NFC wild cards on Philadelphia.
I am going to be in agreement with you. I think Dallas finishes 13-4, just beating out the Eagles.
I actually have the same record, yeah.
Yeah, just beating out the Eagles for the head-to-head tiebreaker at 12-5, and yes, I will pick the Eagles as one of my NFC wildcard teams as well, with Dallas winning the division.
I will probably do the same thing. I hope that the Cowboys work out something, because in one of my fantasy leagues, I did draft Dak and CD. So, but I think the the Eagles are right behind them at 12-5, or maybe 11-6, depending on how it goes for them. But I think that all your guys' predictions are spot on so far.
So I'm going to be
You're
in
going to be the disagreement.
I'm going to be in disagreement. I will say the team. Oh wait, sorry. Right there, Philadelphia takes the division. I think they'll go 11-6, 12-5, something like that. And I think Dallas will be a last, like a borderline, either just gets in or just misses wild card with a
Oh my
9-win or
God.
10-win season.
Well, let me ask for the certainty, because I'm keeping track of it. Are you going to use the last wild card spot on Dallas, or are you going to say they missed the playoffs if you have to pick one?
I'd probably say they make the last wild card spot. If I had to say something right now, like I had to 100%, I'd say they sneak into the playoffs.
All right. Okay, guys, moving over now to the NFC North. And basically, Zain, you mentioned your second team is the Steelers. Well, mine is the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm not looking forward to talking about this. But right now, it is your time. It is Grant's time. Let's talk about those Bears. You got DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett in the offseason, along with Bates and Baird. Justin Fields, of course, out. Deonta Foreman, Darnell Mooney, all out. Your tight ends are out. But in comes the man, the myth, the highly touted Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze following right behind him for the wide receiver role already, in addition to already acquiring DJ Moore last year. Also added an offensive tackle, defensive end, and a punter in the draft. So, Zain and Grant, you guys have the floor.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start here. Just as someone who's from the Chicago suburbs, about 40 minutes outside the city, there has never been so much hype around the Bears team, and probably about, I would say, the last maybe 8 to 10 years. You had the 112-4 season a couple years ago where the Bears won the NFC North, but I have not been around as many people that are excited to see what this Bears team can do with all the talent that they brought in. It's clear that they're taking this new regime seriously. It seems that Ryan Poles is doing the best that he can to please the fans. Matt Eberflus is not a flashy head coach by any means because he feels he doesn't need to be. And then you have this highly touted talent in Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick out of USC. So many expectations. Can the Bears do something in year one? I think they can. I think they can remain competitive. There are a couple of games on their schedule that I feel are very difficult, but against the NFC North, I think he can manage to do pretty okay and be on the fringe of maybe a potentially 8 or 9 win team. Some people say as high as 12-5. I don't think the Bears are there just yet. You got to look at who they've lost. They've lost some pretty immense talent that helped the Bears out despite their losing struggles on both sides of the ball. But overall, although this is a team that I think can compete, they're definitely the furthest thing from a doormat. Or this is a team that will hopefully be a force in the NFC for years to come. And I think that year one is just going to be the start of a new direction where the Bears will remain competitive. They'll win some close games, they'll lose some close games, but one thing that I can guarantee is that there's little to no way that the Bears will get blown out in any of their games this season. And as long as Chicago can have a competitive football team, and it takes a couple years, before they make that leap to the NFC Championship and or the Super Bowl at some point in the future, then Bears should be really happy. So that's my early outlook on the Bears. And keep in mind too that they do play a bulk of the AFC South in the first 5 weeks of the season, opening the season at Soldier Field with Tennessee. So it should be very, very interesting.
Yeah, all of the NFC North. Sorry, again, before you go, just to know, all of the NFC North. We talk about what division is going to play what. All the NFC North is getting the AFC South. So, yeah, I don't think anything needs to be said there. But Grant, go ahead.
When you look at this list, the key additions is shorter than the key departures, but when you look at the key departures, there isn't that much of, in my personal opinion, immense talent that they lost. I mean, the biggest one is probably, Darnell Mooney, Justin Jones, Eddie Jackson, and Yannick Ngakoue, but they added some Pro Bowl talent in Keenan Allen to help with Caleb Williams' adjustment to the NFL. And from what I've seen in his preseason action, he has looked great. My record prediction is a flip to their record from 2023. I think they go 10-7.
Okay. I'm going to say, guys, I think you have a right to be excited. Caleb, Rome, it's absolutely great. In addition to adding DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett. And you're right, Grant. The key additions, as short as they are compared to the key departures, there's so much more talent on the key additions end. It feels like Chicago's regime is really investing in Caleb Williams, which makes me feel bad a little bit for Justin Fields. But considering how
I feel that too, so you're not the only one there.
Although I still laugh about the kind of trade that the Giants made back in 2021 after being sniped. That said, I do have some questions about this team because you managed to grab Keenan Allen, who's a hell of a wide receiver talent, just a guy who can't stay healthy and is constantly getting injured. DeAndre Swift questions about, can he have a bounce back performance after maybe some might say a little bit of a down year in Philadelphia. Gerald Everett, can he, he's a decent and serviceable tight end. Can he really get to the next level? DJ Moore, who you got last year, can he be a true wide receiver who really he had the opportunity to be a wide receiver one in Carolina. Things just did not work out. Rome Odunze, hopefully, can he live up to the expectations? I think there is a lot of potential with this team. And do I think Chicago can get to a winning record, especially because of what's happened to Minnesota? Yes. I don't know if I can say this team is a playoff team yet, though.
And let me just say, I think because of the fact that the Minnesota Vikings are forced into starting Sam Darnold all year, I know that they have talent, but I think that the Bears could pull out 2 wins against them just because of the underperformance of Sam Darnold in where he's played.
So one thing I'll say is I have the Bears just over a winning record. I have them with 9 wins based on what I'm guessing here.
I do too.
But if you include what Grant said, and they do take 2 games over the Vikings, they're a 10-win team for me, which does put them right by that wild card spot.
Well, funny enough, Pat, the over/under for the Bears is 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say just under. I think they get to 9. I don't know if they get to 10.
The beginning of the year for them is a little weird. I think they'll be flippy-floppy for a bit, but then after their bye, they hit a stretch of Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots, Packers, and Vikings, and they could easily win 4 of those games.
That's what I was going to say too, and I'm actually going to the Patriots game in November, so hopefully, assuming that Drake May is healthy, we get a Drake May Caleb Williams shootout, and it ends up being a really good game.
Can I just say your Week 6 matchup, Trevor Lawrence versus Caleb Williams? That's gonna be like a college football fan's dream. You know what I mean? Like seeing those 2 guys in the NFL like that. That is gonna be such a sick game to watch. Just knowing that both of those guys were probably the 2 best college QBs of the past decade, maybe a little less, but yeah.
So are Zain and Grant, are you guys going to say over? Do they get the 10th win?
I think so. But it's just I think it's Bears bias. Yeah,
Zain?
I'm gonna say the Bears finished 9-8, and I do think they sweep the Vikings, and I actually think that they split with Detroit and Green Bay as part of the 9-win season. I also have them beating Tennessee and also beating Indianapolis outside.
But do you think you mentioned with the Steelers, there's always that one game or 2 games that it's how did we lose this?
Well, the game on third schedule this year, where I would say that that's a possibility is probably I would probably say the one where it's like, how did you lose that one? The one that could be considered a trap is the Commanders game, because the Bears never do well in Washington outside of last season. So that could be the one where it's like, okay, how did you lose that one? Besides that one, there's no game on the schedule outside of that one that I can see, at least for the moment, where that feels like a trap. My one guarantee loss this year, 100%, unless a miracle happens, unless a catastrophic injury happens, they will lose December 6th in San Francisco to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So,
just about everybody's going to lose to San Francisco.
Yeah.
All right.
But I will say, I do think 9-8 for the Bears. I think they just missed the playoffs in a heartbreak. I'm sorry, guys. I do think it's going to be heartbreaking, because you guys will think at some after that midseason stretch, you guys are going to have a nice winning streak, and it's going to be like, holy shit, like we're like 7-3, like this is going great. I think you guys end the year with a fairly tough schedule, and it's just going to be like a heartbreak.
Pat, I have them as the 8th seed. I think they're just going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to follow up with you guys, will the Bears be in playoff contention by week 18, or will they already be mathematically eliminated?
I think there will be a chance.
I think them and the Cowboys.
It'll be one of those things where it's like they'll need 3 other teams to lose to get into the playoffs, and I don't know if that's going to happen.
I think they'll need the Cowboys to lose to get into the playoffs. The Cowboys play the Commanders, I think, week 18, and I think the Cowboys will win the game.
Because you're gonna have the mix of the Cowboys, whoever in the NFC North between the Lions and Packers on the mix, the Seahawks. It's gonna take some work.
Yeah.
But that said,
there we go.
Probably the biggest losers of this offseason. And it's not even any of their own fault. J.J. McCarthy, their rookie quarterback, gets injured. Tears his meniscus. He's out for the year. Kyrie Jackson, that's just an absolute tragedy. Their other cornerbacks going down. Jordan Addison going down. Plus, when he comes back, you're looking at a potential suspension for him getting DUI arrested not long after Kyrie Jackson is killed. But this is just, you got Aaron Jones, you got Blake Cashman and Jerry Tillery, but just everything that has happened to this team. It's heartbreaking.
This team might even start 0-4.
Zan, they might start 0-5 or 0-6. The Vikings literally went from a team that was mid. In my opinion, this is me as a Viking supporter. This team went from a team that was mid to a team that's going to be competing for the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. And I'll take one step further. I think they're going to be picked 2 or 3. I think they're coming off a 7-10 season. They're a 6.5 as their over under. I'm going under. I think this team gets 3 or 4 wins.
Yeah, their first win of the season, in my opinion, is gonna come not even in Minnesota, not even in New York, but in London against the Jets. Probably might have the potential to be either first win, depending on who the Jets quarterback even is. By then,
this team, guys, I'll be honest, this team is going to ride or die on Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones.
Agreed.
I don't trust Sam Darnold and his ghost. You're going to need basically Justin Jefferson to be the playmaker that he is. And what concerns me is if this team goes to only 3 or 4 wins, is Justin Jefferson going to throw a hissy fit and request a trade, forcing this team into a potential rebuild when J.J. McCarthy hasn't even played it down yet?
And while in the middle of October, this team has a chance to lose potentially 4 consecutive games again when they play the Rams, Colts, Jaguars, and Titans all back to back in a row.
I'm sitting here looking at the schedule, and if you guys are wondering why my face looks like this, because I'm trying to figure out where I see this team winning games in the first 10 weeks of the season. I don't know if I could actually maybe the Giants week 1. They beat us week 1.
Maybe the Giants.
That's probably the only win I see.
Maybe the Giants week 1, maybe some of the AFC South teams, but
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I think they beat the Giants week 1, but their next win might not come till week 11 in Tennessee. They might lose 10 straight, this team, or 9 straight with the bye in the middle. This team is in a horrible spot. Wow, I didn't realize their schedule was this bad. And then with the McCarthy injury, with the Addison injury, with Hawkinson not being there for that first half of the year, more than likely. I mean, like you said, this is going to ride on Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold at QB and a defense that, I mean, they had some additions, but I think the departures might have been more impactful, like the Danielle Hunter, Davenport, Hicks, like those were some impactful guys.
That's been one of my things about the Vikings. Like even back last season or 2 seasons ago, they had a hell of a defense, but they're losing those pieces.
And just looking at the schedule, I mean, in those first 10 weeks, I project almost all those teams to be plus 500 except New York, the Giants.
Yeah.
So it's just like who are they beating? This is horrible. It's horrible to be a Vikings fan right now. This season really flipped on its head completely.
Like I said, I don't know. I think they'll compete for the number 1 pick. I don't know if they'll get it because there are a couple of teams there that's going to be competing for that. But number 2 or 3 is not out of the question for me. I think they'll either get number 2 or number 3 this year.
Yeah, I can agree with what Tom just said, but I think it's kind of okay. So let me say this. Now, I don't know how any of the quarterbacks that will most likely come out next year will look because college football just started Saturday, so there's a long season ahead. But you probably got yourself. I can't say it. I don't want to say that he's probably the worst quarterback that in this draft in JJ McCarthy, but I mean, he never passed. He was always handing the ball off. He only passed for like 2,100 yards or something like that. So it's not, that's not very impressive.
Well, the answer to that would be they have Aaron Jones, a running back now. The question is Aaron Jones going to stay healthy enough that they're going to continue to, we talk, as a Giants fan, we talk about the concerns of running Saquon Barkley into the ground or talk about some of these other running backs in the NFL. Aaron Jones could be run into the ground, and who's to say he's not going to be the next to go down at that rate?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm going to say only 3 or 4. The one thing I will say, and maybe this is a little Giants bias and perspective in me, so maybe Pat might be in agreement with this, but if you're looking at some of those teams that are going to be, competing for the first round pick, for the first overall pick, a Pats, a Vikings, a Panthers, teams who have already quarterbacks, maybe that presents us an opportunity to trade up towards the top of the draft to pick one next year.
No, it very well could. I would definitely have no problem trading up to the top if we're not already there, for one of those top picks, because I'm in agreement with what Grant said before, where I'm kind of off Daniel Jones. He needs to do something like miraculous for me to come back.
And I understand the concerns from Grant about JJ McCarthy, but you got to give him a chance next season, especially when he's not the only one who's injured on this team. This whole team is a hospital waiting to happen. Well, not even waiting. It is a hospital.
I'd love to do records now. I'd love to predict records. I'm very curious.
I've already said 3 or 4 wins.
Okay.
I'm going to say
what Tom said, 3 or 4.
I'm going to say, just looking briefly, here's 1 win. I'm going to say
Zain is already counting the games.
I'm going to say 1. Yeah, I mean, I think this is, I hate to say it for any Minnesota fans out there, this is between a 2 and 4 win team. Like, this schedule is so brutal. It's so bad that the Kirk Cousins revenge game might be one of the most unwatchable games in recent Minnesota Vikings history in Minnesota too. So,
God.
Okay, yeah. I am in agreement. I think this team has a ceiling of 5 or 6 wins. Ceiling, like absolute ceiling.
Wow, I don't even know if they can hit that.
Like absolute though, but I would predict a 3-4 win team when I look at the Vikings and their schedule this year.
All right, moving on now up to Green Bay. You got the Green Bay Packers. Their over/under is going to be 9.5. Obviously, Aaron Jones out, but Josh Jacobs in, Xavier McKinney in, the drafting of the likes of Jordan Morgan, Andrew Cooper, Marshawn Lloyd, and of course the big story, Jordan Love. Even with one season where he was actually the starting quarterback, manages to get the bag. So, I mean, look, I think Josh Jacobs, give or take, losing Aaron Jones, Xavier McKinney, big addition. They've got a lot of youth now on this team, and the youth is just going to continue to develop. And you look at the schedule from the perspective of Minnesota, who's had all these injuries. It's brutal. When you look at the schedule from the perspective of a team like Green Bay, it looks appetizing. I don't know who's agreement on me on that one.
Sorry, I wasn't sure.
I would say this is a team that again has a chance to be really good. I think that Jordan Love proved a lot of people wrong a year ago. People are like, he's taking over for Aaron Rodgers. Like, is this Packers team going to be different? And it's clear that they weren't. They were able to compete. It was a very difficult schedule that they had to get through. And now they could, have the potential to be looking up at the Bears and Lions and saying, hey, the NFC North has a chance to be really competitive. But this is a team that I think is going to be in it until the last week. And I think very similarly to the NFC East, it's going to come down to the Packers-Lions game on Thanksgiving to me to determine who's going to eventually win the NFC North come January.
That Thanksgiving matchup is going to be so fun to watch to kick off that day.
Oh, actually, I just realized that a factor. Thanksgiving is Detroit versus the Bears. What I meant to say was the Detroit Green Bay Detroit meeting in Detroit. That's what I meant.
And I'm going to agree and say I'm going to go one step further, even though we still have to talk about Detroit. I think Green Bay will be in it for the division simply because of their home field factor. I don't know if Detroit can beat them in frozen tundra Lambeau.
Well, I will, any Bears fan will probably forever hate the Packers because Aaron Rodgers terrorized us Bears fans for the better of 20 or so years. And
I thought I was going crazy.
No, that was me.
I just, I think Jordan Love has done great, the past couple of years. The problem that I have, the problem and the happiness that is in me as a Bears fan is the Packers never seem to draft wide receiver help for any of the quarterbacks. Now, as a Bears fan, I'm happy about that because that means that they don't have like the star stud, wide receiver combination for Jordan Love, but he still seems to make it work with 6th and 7th round rookies or something, so how can you make that work? I don't know, but I want them to be worse than they were last year. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would say that they probably are going to be second in the division behind Detroit. So
yeah, they had very little additions in terms of free agency. I thought they drafted all right. I liked Bullard. I liked Cooper. The Morgan pick kind of threw me off. But there were some solid draft picks in there. I actually like Michael Pratt in the 7th round too, just as a backup there. I think he's a good backup QB in the NFL. They lost a couple guys in free agency. couple meaningful guys like Aaron Jones, but they upgraded with Jacobs. Bakhtiari hurt, Runyon hurt, Campbell hurt, but nothing too impactful. I think overall they're going to improve as a team because they have so many young players. It was talked about heavily last year how they were like the second youngest team in NFL playoff history, something like that. And I think that it's just going to be natural progression of their young players, and I think they're going to have around a 10-7 record this year.
This is crazy to think about, but if you realistically look at Green Bay's schedule, I think that 8-0 or 7-1 is not out of the question to start.
Well, I think they start the year 5-1, so I agree with that.
This is a very manageable first half of the schedule. It doesn't get really difficult, in my opinion, until probably late October, early November is when you get to see some huge games creep up. And Pat, I'm sure you'd probably attest to that.
Yeah, no. So that was my thing. I actually had them starting 4-1, 5-1, and then them falling all the way to like 5-5, 5-6 even, and then bouncing back at the end of the year when their schedule lightens up a bit again. And I think that the beginning of the year and the end of the year will be very good for them, but that middle portion might be a little rough.
So where do you see them finish?
So for the record,
where do you see the losing streak start, Pat?
I see it starting probably week 7, week 9, maybe. It depends on that Houston game. That Houston game will be big for them. If they win, I think it'll start week 9. If they lose, I think it starts there. Week 7 through about 13, 14 when they play Detroit again. When they play Miami.
You actually think they lose to the Bears in Chicago in mid-November?
That was one of the wins I have for them. No, that was one of the wins I have for them. I didn't think it was just straight losses. I thought like there was a win thrown in there too, and that was the win. But I do think Chicago beats them week 18.
Okay.
Oh wow! Which by the way, as history tells us, the Bears are brutal at Lambeau Field. So if I were you and you wanted the Bears to win at least one, I would flip that. So
yeah, okay. But the Packers their over under is 9.5, playing off their 9-8 2023 record. I think there's improvements. I think they're competing for the division. That's got to be an over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the over, probably at 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, I have them at 10.
All right, and now that brings us over to the team that has made a lot of noise. What's up?
Before we officially move over to Detroit, biggest game of the season for Green Bay, November 24th, San Francisco comes to Lambeau Field. Circle it, mark it, start it, whatever you want to do has a chance to be the biggest NFC game of the entire year. I'm just saying.
And I think. And to add on to that, I think in terms of like them streaking, or like depending on how they'll finish the year and if they will be competing for the division, week 7 in Houston and how that game goes, I think will determine a lot for them because it'll carry the momentum into Jacksonville and into Detroit.
100,000% in agreement there. Well said.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's go on to the team that has made all the noise. The team that is the one that's going to be to watch this season. And that is the Detroit Lions, coming off the 12-5 record, falling just short of making this first Super Bowl appearance in a long time. You've got a couple of...
No, first Super Bowl appearance
ever. Pardon me, ever. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Romeo Okwara, all on the out, but adding Kevin Zeitler, adding Davenport and Robertson, the drafting of Terry and Arnold. Guys, let's be real. This is a team that, as much as the Chiefs are going for the three-peat, as much as San Fran's trying to get back to the Super Bowl, all these different players that, all the question marks around them, this is the team right now that has all the noise. And this is the team that Sports Illustrated has predicted will win the Super Bowl, which is usually going to be a curse for that team then.
Yeah, probably. On paper, this looks like an 11-6 team. What do you guys?
The over/under, I'll throw out right away. The over/under is 10.5, and I think that's a way over. I think it's going to be a 2-team race between the Packers and Lions that comes down to like week 18.
I just don't see how Detroit makes the Super Bowl because even though they have such a talented team, they don't have that one face of the franchise where you just go, oh, if that guy is every week, they'll win. Like you take a look at, Super Bowl teams of past history. You take a look at, the Chiefs with the combination of Mahomes and Kelsey. You go all the way back to 1994, 1995 when San Francisco beat the Chargers to win Super Bowl 29. They had talent all over the field. To me, Detroit, I think, is one potentially two missing pieces away from going to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. And I'm just going to be brutally blunt. It's not going to be this year. Do they have a chance to go to the NFC Championship game? Of course they do. But I just think the division is too overloaded with talent. And again, as I just alluded to a second ago, they can get one more piece in the 2024-25 off season. They'll be set for the Super Bowl. But for now, I think Detroit fans are going to have to settle for another NFC Championship appearance because I think they're just one step too short at the moment.
I can agree with everything that Zain just said. I mean, on paper they look great. Dan Campbell has completely turned around this team ever since he joined. He came on as head coach. They got great pieces, in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameer Gibbs, and David Montgomery. But I think they're missing a couple of pieces at certain spots. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is an 11 win team. Sorry.
Pat, what do you think?
Well, the Lions are one of my favorite teams outside of New York. I always love to see the Lions win just because of the poor history of the team. I love a lot of their players. Amon-Ra is awesome. Jared Goff, I think Jared Goff's been underrated for his whole career, so it was really awesome to see him finally start to get the respect I thought he deserved. They did lose a couple pieces in the offseason. I don't think it was anything game-breaking for them. Their draft was solid for the light amount of picks they had. I thought they drafted pretty well. I love the Arnold pick, loved the Ray Straw pick. Some decent additions in the offseason and free agency. I love the Carlton Davis pickup. I really think their secondary is that was one of their biggest concerns last year, and it improved, but then it started to fail them a bit again. I think they went deep on the secondary, and we will see it pay off this year. And I think this team's an 11-win team. I think they.
So we're all in agreement.
Just a little bit worse than last year. Yeah.
We're all in agreement though on the over.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the Lions,
What?
10.5.
I could see the under happening. I could see them winning 10 games, but I do agree with the over.
Okay.
What position is Rakestraw?
Corner.
Oh,
Yes.
It's not listed, so.
Okay. So the Lions are basically going off of those over-unders. The Lions are the favorite to win the division. Do we all think that is the case?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a tight race with them in Green Bay for the entire season.
Race, but it probably will be the Lions.
I think even Chicago will be involved as a potential team that's there at the number one seed for a bit.
At least through November. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a 3-team race for most of the year, and I think it'll break off into Detroit and Green Bay later on. But we could end up seeing 3 playoff teams from this division. It's not out of the question.
So I'm gonna say the Lions make the playoffs again. I think they're gonna tie with Green Bay though, and they'll lose the tiebreaker and be the wild card. I have Green Bay winning the division.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the opposite of you, and I'm gonna say that they're both gonna have the same record, but Detroit is gonna win the tiebreaker over the Packers.
Ooh.
Well, I have it. I have it.
You agree?
I could very well see it, and I could see any of those options playing out. I do think I said Detroit wins one more game than Green Bay, though, so I think I have them winning the division. But I could very well see it.
But you have the Packers as a wild card.
Yes, yes, the Packers would be. I'm assuming my second wild card, but they might even be first.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. At the same wavelength.
Okay. So we're all in agreement that at least 2 teams are going to make the playoffs in this division. Is anybody going to go with the Bears as a wild card?
I will.
Wow. Grant pulls the trigger on it.
Wow, man.
So Grant's
I
wild card.
I love the dedication.
So
I'm
Grant's
not ready.
wild card.
I'm not ready to go there just yet, but I respect it. So
Okay, so Grant's wild card predictions are Eagles, Packers, Bears. So you say Seahawks. The Bears beat up the Seahawks for the last spot or something like that.
Probably.
All right.
What are mine so far, Tom? I have 2.
So Zan, you have the Eagles and Packers as wild cards right now.
Yeah. Which by the
And,
way,
and
I
so
think
do I.
Which, by the way, I think the next division we're going to preview is where my third wild card team comes out.
Really? From the NFC South?
Yep.
Okay, I'm interested in this one. But let's start with the crap. 2-15 record, should have had the number 1 overall pick, but they ended up making that trade with the Bears. So good job, Carolina.
Thank you.
They blew the Ryan Bird situation. Thank you, Carolina. Deion Jones gone, Shaquille Griffin gone, Von Bell gone, DJ Chark gone. Deontay Johnson added in, but he's coming off of a headache season in Pittsburgh. Clowney's there. DJ Wonnum's there. Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks have a little hype to them, but I'm going to be very brutal, guys. I know we talk about the Vikings being crap. I know we talk about the Patriots potentially being very crap, and they'll talk about it more in the AFC show tomorrow, but I'll be very real. I don't think Carolina has done enough to me to convince me that they're not going to be another top 5 pick again, if not a top 3 pick again.
Agreed, Tom. Can I go into this first? I just have to. For me, the Carolina Panthers have a very long list of additions. But I don't think they added enough talent around the in the pass catcher and in the offensive side of the ball to help Bryce Young succeed. Their 2023 record was 2-15. I could see
their over/under is 5.5. By the way, I'm sorry,
3 or 4 wins in my opinion.
Their over/under is 5.5, and you say under, and I'm going to
say under.
I agree on the under.
I wouldn't be surprised if. So my prediction for the first pick will probably be the Giants, and second or third will be the Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
All right. So
this is my number 1 overall pick in 2025.
Oh, you think the Panthers have another? So you saying they'll go like 2-15 again?
Potentially, I think you could up it to 3 wins, so 3-14. But I think it'll be good enough to still clinch the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
I think Minnesota has somewhat of a schedule where if a few games go right, they could win maybe 5 games. But I think Carolina is worse than Minnesota, even with the loss of J.J. McCarthy. Simply considering that we have not seen J.J. McCarthy play in a professional NFL game yet, so I don't think it's fair to judge a kid that's barely played any NFL snaps.
But you already are on the outs of Bryce Young after 1 season.
For the moment, yeah, he needs more help. I don't think any of these key additions tell me that he has the help that he deserves. Deontay Johnson is the furthest thing from a big game receiver. I'm sorry, he did nothing. He did nothing in Pittsburgh to impress me to think that he will do anything substantial in Carolina.
And Zan, who's not to say that with this kind of crappy team that Deontay Johnson won't be worse of a headache than he was in Pittsburgh?
He potentially could be. And think about this too. Part of their key departures, half of these guys are practically old. I mean, when's the last time that Shaquille Griffin did anything substantial? When's the last time that DJ Chark did anything substantial? Hell, when's the last time Hayden Hurst did anything substantial? So this team is a church, spit out and redo it again. So,
but Zan, at the same time, you look at those apart like Griffin, Bell, Barnes, Jones. Those are big defensive pieces that are gone now. That defense, I think, looks worse than last season.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I guess I'm coming in with it. I think the Panthers are a 5-6 win team.
What?
Disagree.
Wow.
Disagree.
Pat?
Yeah, show me right now where the Panthers win 6 games with the schedule that they have.
I think they start off 2-1. I think they beat New Orleans week 1 and Vegas week 3.
What? The Raiders
Yeah.
week 3?
I think they beat the Commanders and the Broncos.
What?
I think they beat Tampa Bay once.
No,
And then I think if Atlanta rests starters week 18, they beat Atlanta.
Okay, but that's week 18.
I know, but
Pat,
that would give them a 6th win. That would give them a
I-
6th win, which does matter in retrospect.
Pat,
in
I forget.
landscape.
Pat, I forget what the laws are in Jersey. But are you high right now?
I like the Panthers this year. I think Bryce is going to show minor improvement. I think Deontay is going to help out. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a fan of the defense too. Like I've always liked the Panthers defense.
No way.
Yeah, I know they've lost some pieces, but I don't know, man.
Pat, are you gonna go? Pat, are you gonna go as far to say that they're gonna upset the Bears too?
No. I think they lose to the Bears.
Minor improvements.
Wait. Pat, are you saying the Panthers are going to beat the Giants in Germany?
No.
Okay.
No, I took you through it. I think the Saints, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Broncos, Tampa Bay once, and then maybe the Falcons if they rest starters. It's not that crazy, you know? It's not like I'm saying they're going to beat the best teams. These are other bottom teams.
The only 2 games that I would remotely agree with you on would probably be potentially Denver and the Raiders out of the ones that you just said, but outside of those, I don't agree with any.
But none of those teams are like crazy good, you know. It's not like the most craziest thing if the Panthers pull off a win against them.
They're not. I understand that, Pat, but I don't think the Panthers have the talent.
That's fair.
And the schedule's too hard. Schedule's way too hard.
Pat, the Panthers. Hold on, where's the over/under? The Panthers over/under is 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to give them that 6th win and take an over?
No.
Okay.
I had actually talked. I had talked with a couple friends about it.
You don't take the over.
Well, because the over is 5.5. I said 5 or 6 wins. I don't want to rely because I said the 6th win would come from Atlanta if they rest starters. I'm not making a bet relying that Atlanta is resting starters week 18.
That's actually
you know what I mean. I can't do that. You can't lay that. You know. So but I had talked with friends before the season about potential over-unders, and we had talked about the Panthers as a team that if their over-under was low enough, we were going to hammer the over because we thought they had the potential to improve just enough. But 5.5 is just a little too rich for my liking.
Okay. On that, Grant, did you want to add something?
Pat, you said, a couple of minutes ago that you thought that Bryce Young would show minor improvement. Minor improvement in a lot of people's mind is 2 games. You said 4. I don't think there's not enough talent that they added this offseason to get to 6 wins. I'm sorry.
It's fair.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Absolutely.
Okay. On that note, since we brought them up, let's talk about those Falcons. So there's one thing here, guys. Since I'm focused on players with these slides, there's one thing on here that there's a big key departure that's missing. And his name is Arthur Smith. He is gone. And praise be to Jesus, he is gone.
Praise to the Bijan.
That means Bijan. That means Drake London. That means Kyle Pitts, hopefully, will finally be utilized. Now, they lost Cordarrelle Patterson, Desmond Ridder gone, Rondale Moore injured before the season even begins. Obviously, we do have the quarterback controversy at the helm with them giving that big deal to Kirk Cousins and then drafting Michael Penix because why the hell not? That said, I think quarterback controversy aside, they're coming off a 7-10 season. And I know there were a lot of underperformers last season. That has a lot of people with a sour taste in their mouth about Atlanta. That said, I trust the new regime. It's only going to be a year of trust. If they don't do anything, then it's going to be, they're going to lose all my trust again. But I'm going to trust this new regime that they saw the mistakes that Arthur Smith and this team were making last year, and they will look to correct that and actually utilize the talent in a way that it can. And with a veteran presence in there like Kirk Cousins, that will be done.
Right. This is so. I'm just gonna say this is gonna be my last wild card team to get in. I think they have enough pieces to where they actually have a stable quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And yeah, I know Kirk Cousins gets a lot of flack for losing some major national TV games that he should. But if you think about the consistency that he's had early every single year, you'd have to go back 5 or 6 years to really find the last really bad team that Kirk Cousins was on. I'm a little biased. I think that this Darnell Mooney pickup was huge for Atlanta. I actually did like him in Chicago. I think he was super underutilized in Chicago, but that's just my little sentiment there. It's tough to see that Rondale Moore won't be as active as what everybody expected, but I do think this team has a chance to win a lot of close games and playing in a weaker NFC South. They'll probably sneak out some wins that maybe people weren't expecting. To me, this is a 8-9 bubble playoff team to a 9-8 final wild card team that gets in on the last week of the season. I like this team, but the key for Atlanta is that they're going to have some early games go their way because if they don't, it's going to be a long year. And I do think that the Pittsburgh game, the first week of the season, is going to be a lot closer than what people expect. It'll be a good game.
So Zain, just everybody here, the over/under for the Falcons is going to be 9.5. I'm going to take the over. I think this can be a double-digit team.
I just like the under at 9-8, but would not be surprised if the over. And I would be very. Well, let me just say this: with how much I think this team has steadily improved this off season, I would be very okay with getting this prediction wrong and the over hitting instead. So.
Yeah. So I can agree with Zain about all of his points. I think this could be a 9-8 win team. But I just have to say it because it's laughable at this point. Why would you pay Kirk Cousins $180 million and then draft a 25-year-old rookie who probably won't start playing until he's 27? So
it does not make sense whatsoever. The only thing that I can maybe defend the Falcons on is they're worried that Kirk Cousins might be injury prone and they need an absolute emergency.
Yeah, and I think, and Zain, and I think maybe they're doing that, like you mentioned, with the injury and with the understanding that he's already 25, and they can already say he's more of a backup than anything.
Yes. And I can agree with the injury thing to Kirk Cousins. I love Darnell Mooney. In the Falcons offense, he finally probably gets a better quarterback than what he's had in Chicago. I hope he does great. I hope that this new regime helps the Falcons look good, like when they were had Michael Vick. I don't think this team is what they had with Michael Vick, but with all their pieces, they should perform like that.
Pat, what do you say? Over, under? What do you think of this team?
Over. You're missing a massive key addition, Matthew Judon.
Yeah.
Who is going to head this defensive front and is a massive piece. They also just got Justin Simmons, who you need to add to. You're missing a couple big additions that weren't covered. This team is good. Jesse Bates, they have a very solid defense. They have a very high potential offense with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins that won 13 games his last fully healthy season. I think this is a 12-win team.
I have them as 11-6.
Actually, pick. Actually, given that I even forgot about those additions too, I actually like that. I actually like the Falcons overall.
Because looking at the key departures, the key additions, it makes it look like they just got ripped apart on defense and just built up their offense, but they got a lot of solid defensive players. And I think this defense, the secondary especially, is deadly. I think the linebacker core with Judon is so solid. And then their D line is more than capable, in my opinion. Their offensive line has always been solid. They get Kirk Cousins, get rid of Arthur Smith, which is massive. I don't see a way in that division that this team finishes with less than like 10 wins.
No, they're a double-digit team in my book.
Yeah, and I'm a little biased considering that they did draft Casey Washington out of Illinois in the 6th round. But if he has a chance to play, that's a major if. You know, he has a chance to be a speedster that the Falcons have been missing for quite some time. And you want to talk about a big play receiver? He's it. So if he gets a chance to play early on, I'm excited to see how he does in the pros.
So am I supposed to drop a hot take now or wait till the end?
Wait till the one we're gonna record Wednesday and air Thursday.
Okay.
Wait, because there are hot takes that I'm gonna wait on myself.
Okay.
That said, let's keep moving. Let's go over to the New Orleans Saints. A lot of changes going on with this team. So they added Chase Young, they added Cedric Wilson and Willie Gay, but a couple of the pieces of the old regime gone. No more Michael Thomas. Jimmy Graham gone. Jameis Winston has been in their mix for a little while at the quarterback position in New Orleans. He's gone. They added Talasifuaga and the offensive tackle in the draft. They got, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I cannot believe that there is a rookie in Kool-Aid. And then, of course, they actually ended up getting another backup quarterback in Spencer Rattler, who can back up for Derek Carr. But I look at this team, and they were mid last year, and I think they're still mid. They're over under 7.5. I think they could only be a 6 or 7 win team. I'm going to go with an under. In addition, there's a lot of questions revolving around Alvin Kamara. Guys, I mean, he still has the potential to be the explosive running back that we know, but he's getting a little up there towards that 30 mark or at that 30 mark. And last season, guys, let's be blunt. Obviously, he missed games for suspension, but even when he came back, it was a major disappointment.
100%. And just to add to the fact too that like in this draft, you get Spencer Rattler, in the 5th round, and he was someone that 5-6 years ago people were touting as one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, and his college career did not go the way that people thought it was going to go, given the hype that he had out of high school. And potentially, depending on what their quarterback room looks like, he has a chance to potentially be a starter within the next 2 to 3 seasons. So I think this is a Saints team where it's clear and obvious from the slide that was built here that this team is building for a new era of Saints football. And I think it's going to be a long time before you can say that this team is a Super Bowl caliber team, because I just don't think they have the same depth that maybe they did 6 or 7 years ago.
Super Bowl caliber, Zan. I don't even think they're division caliber right now.
Agree.
I agree with everything Zain just said. They seem to be drafting well. They didn't add that many pieces, in free agency, and had a lot of talent leave, despite the talent being very ageful, very old. But the question that I have is Dennis Allen the answer at head coach? Because he hasn't shown me much. So I'm just curious about that. I could see
even at the head coach position. Sorry, Grant. At the head coach position, this is not a team for 2024.
Absolutely not. No.
This is going to be a team that you hope 26, 27, maybe at most 28, they get back into things.
You're probably right. I could see 6 or 7 wins for the Saints.
Yeah, I'm going the under 7.5. I'd say 6 or 7.
I see under as well. Yep.
I'm at 7 or 8, but it's 7 is what I would say as well. So yeah, I'm with you guys there.
I mean, it's an incredibly weak division, but like we said,
I did like
there's
I did
stuff
like
on
their
too.
draft at least. I like their first 2 picks,
I
and I
like
thought
their
I
draft.
thought Bub Means was decent late. Like
Yeah.
their draft wasn't bad. It was just like those departures were tough. They didn't add anything. There was like a time where I have a friend that's a good friend that's a Saints fan, and he's sitting there like 2 weeks into free agency, and he's like, "Are we gonna do anything? Like, there's not been a single thing this team has done." He's just like, "What is happening?" Like he was, and then he
Not
started to get like
that
mad, and then they got Chase Young, and he like was all over it because that's all they did. Like he was just like so in love with that. But yeah, this team.
But there's also something to watch with Chase Young. I mean, he's had horrendous injuries in his career so far. So, he's not the player that the Commanders thought they were getting
Yeah.
when they
No.
drafted him number 2 overall in 20. Oh God, what year was that?
2021?
For
2021.
Chase Young,
Yeah, 2021.
I think
He's
20.
not.
Yeah.
He's not. Pretty much what you're saying, Rand, is he's not the guy that made Ohio State into a perennial defense, right?
No, he's not. No.
No. All right. So we have one more team, the defending division champs at 9-8 last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The key additions, not a lot there, although you can say the big thing with them is a lot of re-signings and extensions and such. They re-signed Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans is coming back. They got Randy Gregory, Tavier Thomas, Levante David, Ben Bredesen. Shaq Barrett obviously gone to trading him away to the Dolphins, but then of course Shaq Barrett ends up retiring. Ryan Jensen, unfortunately, suffering a career-ending injury. Devin White is gone. Carlton Davis is gone. They seem to build a few of their lines in the draft selections. The drafting of Graham Barton at center, Chris Braswell at the offensive line, Tyke Smith at the safety position. Their over-under is 7.5. I just don't know, guys, with this Falcons team and this new, energy in Atlanta on both sides of the ball, that Tampa can hold the same kind of, power over a crappy division that it once did. I think Atlanta's starting to, like I said, hopefully this is the one chance I'm giving to this new Atlanta regime, but they shake off some of that crap and actually stand out in the division, which may relate to one of the takes I have come the end of the week. But here, guys, I think they're going to take a step back, Tampa. I don't think they've done as much as they finalized Baker and Evans. I don't know they're going to do enough. And I'm actually going to go under. I think they're going to be under 500.
I'm going to have to disagree. This is still the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You still have Mike Evans, who's one of the most consistent receivers in football. And let's be honest, besides Atlanta, they're playing in a relatively weak division. I think they're going to be in the NFC South title race till the very end. I think they barely win the division over the Falcons. This is not the team that maybe people were hoping would continue with sustained success after Tom Brady, but this is still a team that I think is dangerous, and I think that below 500 is way too bold of a take, and I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. This is still a good team.
I'm going to agree with Zain here. I believe that this team will have us. I'll give him an 8-9 or 9-8 record like last year. You have to understand that Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans are going to be a lethal combo. They showed it last year, and they still have a lot of good pieces on offense. They got a new starting center in Graham Barton. I really like their team, and I am very excited to watch them.
But Grant, that said, you've already used your 3 wildcard spots on the Eagles, Packers, and Bears. You're saying that they'll be 8 or 9 or 9 and 8, but are you saying that's not going to be enough?
I don't think that's going to be enough.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm more in agreement with Tom. I do not think this is a playoff team. I don't think they'll be too close this year. I think we will see a bit of a decline from them. They do have
Okay.
a pretty tough schedule, too. I mean, they have to play the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Eagles, like the Cowboys. They have to play some really tough teams throughout the year. I think this is a 7-8 win team. Probably 7, honestly. I think this team will struggle just because as much as I love Baker Mayfield, his whole career has been glimpses and then getting figured out. And he had the glimpses last year, and I feel like teams will start to figure him out more this year, and he'll start to fade. Rashad White won't be as effective. Mike Evans still might be solid. Godwin might be all right. I don't love the defense. This team's just they're nothing special to me, in all honesty.
Okay, so I'm gonna go under the assumption Zan is going to go with Tampa Bay, with Atlanta as a wild card, and then the other three of us are all going with Atlanta.
Yup, Atlanta is going to be my last NFC wildcard team in. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
crazy. That's crazy compared to what I have.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's one division left for us to go through in the NFC West, and Pat, you and I are the ones still missing a wild card seed. So I think both of us have a wild card coming here. I would expect.
There may be.
All right, but let's start things with the Arizona Cardinals. Their over/under is going to be 6.5. Losing pieces like Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. They acquired Desmond Ridder through a trade with Atlanta. DJ Dallas, they a couple of pieces on the defensive line, and Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols, as well as Sean Murphy-Bunting. Obviously, the big story is the acquisitions in the draft of Marvin Harrison Jr., as well as Darius Robinson and a couple other pieces here and there. Look,
2 Illinois teammates were also drafted in the same round. Isaiah Adams and Tip Ryman. You don't see that. Every day either.
So I was thinking about mentioning them too. Yeah, Isaiah and Tip. But I just look at this team, guys, and despite the beefing up a little bit on the defensive end of the ball, the losing of Brown and Moore. I know Marvin Harrison could be a playmaker, but I just don't know if I see it. And I think Kyler's on a bit on the decline. I just don't know. 4-13, they may get the same record, maybe 5 or 6. I don't see it from this Arizona team.
I'm gonna say 6 wins. I think this is a team that can compete, but it's kind of the same reason that I gave for the Saints, and even the same reason that I gave for the Commanders too.
They're 2026, 27, 2018.
Well, partially that, and the fact that they just simply don't have enough talent. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell, it's a very, very youthful team. I mean, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., who's coming off of just a hellaciously insane college career at Ohio State. He's never played an NFL snap. Isaiah Adams, he's never played an NFL snap. Tip Ryman's never played an NFL snap, and he was a late bloomer to college football. Again, I just think there's too many holes and too many question marks for me to justify this Cardinals team as being good. I think that 6-11 is their ceiling.
Okay, Grant.
I like their first two draft picks in Marvin Harrison and Darius Robinson. But I do agree with Zain and Tom. I would say that they're a 5 or 6 win team at best. Kyler Murray hasn't been that great. And Jonathan Gannon, I don't think was the greatest idea for a head coach.
At least, Grant, I think he's okay, but he's definitely not the same quarterback after losing DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure. But maybe, who knows? Maybe Marvin Harrison will be the replacement for DeAndre Hopkins. But I still only think this is 5 or 6 wins.
Pat?
Tom, play the Naz Reid sound.
Wait, what?
Play the Naz Reid sound, Tom.
Hold on. You threw me off there.
If you can find it. I know. If you can find it.
Okay, hold on.
Play it again.
Okay.
Naz Reid!
I think the Cardinals will finish 10-7 and be in a wild card spot this year. I think the Cardinals will shock everyone with a healthy Kyler Murray connecting with one of the most dangerous rookie wide receivers we've ever seen in Marvin Harrison Jr. I think their offensive line will impress. I think Paris Johnson will be one of the better offensive linemen and better left tackles in the NFL. Trey McBride is dangerous. I think the Benson Connor combo will be solid for throughout the year. My biggest worry is their defensive line. I think they have a very weak defensive line. It comes down to how Darius Robinson, the rookie in their first round, plays. I like their linebacker core, and I think their secondary is pretty damn solid. So give me the Cardinals to pull off upset, if you will, and make it to the NFL playoffs as my last wild card team at 10-7.
So wait a minute, Pat. Tell me roughly where you see 10 wins for the Arizona Cardinals team, because I simply don't see it. So please enlighten the masses, if you will, as to why you believe the Arizona Cardinals in games. Give me the formula here. What do you what do you know? What do you see? And how do you feel?
I think they. Do you want me to take you through the season or just the wins?
Just the wins.
I'll take you through it. Okay.
Just the wins.
Okay. I think they split with the Rams.
Okay.
I think
I can buy that just simply on the divisional argument.
I think they beat the Commanders.
Okay.
I think they beat San Fran in Week 5.
No.
That's a hot take.
Oh my God! Hold on a minute. What?
Oh my gosh!
I think they beat the Bears Week 9.
What?
Screw you!
Oh my God!
I think they beat the Jets Week 10.
Nick Morganson, Nick DiMartino might agree with you on that one.
I think they beat the Seahawks Week 12, the Vikings Week 13, so that's 7. I think they beat the Patriots Week 15 and the Panthers Week 16. That's
okay, those last three are gimmies. Come on.
But that's a couple wins there. So if I have them winning some early games that they might not be like projected to, I have them as a playoff team.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I can't see.
Do you have them as a playoff team winning their first playoff game too?
I don't want to go that far yet. But I just think they have such a cakewalk of the second half of the season. I mean, they have Seattle, Minnesota, Patriots, Panthers, and then Rams and Niners are in a cakewalk. But those 5 games in a row after your bye week is like a dream come true. They could easily go 5-0.
See, that's the stretch where I think they win 5 out of the 6 games that I predicted.
So our difference is in the early season. I think they pull out some wins that they necessarily aren't expected to, just based on their secondary and like passing game just being kind of dynamic.
I still think you're high.
I am for sure. No, I am for sure. I can't even argue it at this point.
Okay, let's go to Seattle. So a couple of pieces that they're down. Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner. They tried the Legion of Boom again. Wasn't exactly successful, but you know what? They kept themselves in the running for a second or third straight year. Obviously, 2022, they actually managed to beat out the Packers for that last wild card. That history. I mean, they managed to beat the Packers and got the Packers out of the wild card. Last year. I have been consistently high with Seattle, even in a little bit of this rougher stretch. Jerome Baker, Rayshon Jenkins, Tyrell Dodson. So they're trying to get some pieces back with their defense. Sam Howell now the backup.
I'm slightly confused how you were painting that. Didn't the Packers clinch the last wild card spot last year?
No, I mean, here's what I corrected. I said 2 years ago they actually. Seahawks missed out, but I think that was the Lions who missed out and knocked out the Packers. And 2 years ago, the Seahawks did clinch the playoff spot. Last year, the Packers did.
Yes, correct. Yep,
that's what I said.
Oh, it's the way you worded it.
I know. I apologize.
So I just wanted to clarify.
My point is, I know people are down on Seattle. I'm not so much. I think the additions that they're adding on defense, is it going to be a complete replacement? No. I know Geno Smith has taken a little bit of a step back, but I think they still have DK Metcalf. They still have Tyler Lockett. I still believe in Seattle. Do I believe they go far? No. Do I still believe that they are a playoff caliber? Yes. And their over-under is 7.5. And I don't think they're a losing record team. I think they can get to 9-8 at least. I'll go over on that.
Tom, I'm gonna bring up a little thing that you forgot to mention. They did hire a new head coach in Mike McDaniel, I think, or McDonald or something.
Yeah. And that's the one criticism I will give to Seattle, that they should not have pushed Pete Carroll out the way they did.
I completely agree with your statement. I mean, he got you one Super Bowl. He brought you to two of them. Well, honestly, he probably should have won two of them, because if you're smart, you run the damn ball with Marshawn Lynch. And I know that was way, way in the past, but I just had to mention that because that was a stupid play call with the slant. I mean, I knew that was going to be an interception when it was thrown. And when you have Marshawn Lynch, you give the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1 yard line.
No, but I think my point is, with the way that they have been competitive, even when people were down on them the last 2 seasons, that's not a reason to push Pete Carroll out to a front office position.
I agree, and I would say that they will have a an 8-9 record, or maybe a 9-8 record. I just don't think that they're going to be as good as people think.
100%, and I just think it's too tough of a division for me to justify this team making the playoffs. And I actually think the game to circle is in late December in Chicago, because I think the loser of that game is going to be out of the playoff picture, and the winner will remain in for at least another week. And because I'm picking the Bears, I think that's when Seattle's season is officially over in terms of mathematical possibilities, and I think they just sit on the outside looking in of the last NFC wildcard spot.
So, Grant, you have the over, but still they're missing the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay, Zan, do you have the over at 7.5? Or
I do, yeah. I have them finishing with the exact same record of 9-8. But as I just alluded to, I think whoever loses the Bears Seattle game in Chicago is going to be out of the playoff picture by the end of December. So
I guess we're going back to back with the hot takes, because I see this being a 6-7 win team.
Oh my God.
I think they have a higher ceiling if Sam Howell can get his shit together and be the quarterback of this team. I think Geno's time is up. I think the jig is up. They found out how to play against Geno. Geno won't impact. And I think this is my thing. I love their new OC. For anyone that doesn't know, they got Ryan Day from Washington. Or not Washington. They didn't get Ryan Day. I forget his name. From Washington. They're his OC.
Ryan...
is it Ryan Day? No, that's Ohio State's guy, right?
I was going to say Ryan Day's the coach of
Ohio State. He's Ohio State's guy. No, but Ryan Grubb was Washington's OC. If you guys saw what Washington did last year in college, they were an air raid offense. They had 3 receivers that got drafted in the first 4 or 5 rounds.
And I
they
think
had
that
Phoenix
kind of
get drafted.
And Pat, I think that kind of play style in Seattle, that can work.
And I think so too. Not with Geno Smith at quarterback. He's a game manager. That's not his offense. That's not his style. That's why they got Sam Howell, hoping he would be able to take over Geno's job by the end of the year.
Okay.
I think that's why if Sam Howell starts, I can see this team winning 8-9 games, something like that. If it's Geno, I think they're a very measly 6-7 wins, and I think they disappoint.
Okay. So then let's go on to the LA Rams. So obviously, they still retain some of their core. Obviously, the big question is going to be around Cooper Kupp after the injury last season. What can he bounce back to? There's going to be questions about their defense after losing the likes of Aaron Donald and Jordan Fuller. Obviously, they did pick up a couple of defensive pieces in Tre'Davious White, Darius Williams, also picking up Jared Verse and Braden Fisk in the draft, Blake Corum as another running back. So, I mean, I just look at this team, with Cooper and Puka, and I think they have the talent, but I don't know. They are a very talented team. They made the playoffs last year as a wild card. I don't know, man, but something tells me there's going to be a little bit of a step back. Something tells me I don't know if Puka is going to have the same kind of success he had last season. I don't know if Cooper is going to be 100% again. If there's another Cooper injury, guys, I don't know this team makes the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This to me, I think is a 7-8 win team at the very
the over under is 8.5, and you're taking the under, Zan, and I'm going to agree with you. I think they're only 7 or 8 wins.
I'd say under, yeah. And this is a team that I feel should have a lot of high expectations. They took Detroit to the wire in Detroit. Many people could have argued that they could have won that game in the playoffs last year, but to me, ever since winning the Super Bowl a couple years ago, they just simply have not been the same team. And I still think they're still reeling from the Super Bowl hangover all these years later, and it's finally catching up with McVay and company. And I think it's just going to totally come to a halt by the end of the season. So,
Grant.
So I mean, I know that they lost, the biggest name in defensive history in
Aaron Donald, yeah.
Aaron Donald, sorry. I want to say Arnold. But they have great pieces on offense, and they actually possibly replaced him in Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse. So, I mean, and the thing that you have to remember is this team is led by Sean McVay. Sean McVay is a great head coach. So, I mean, I could still see them, maybe losing a win or two. I could see this as an 8-9 or 9-8 team because
so contrary to Tom and myself, you like the over on the Rams. You think
it's 8.5, so you gotta.
I'll take the under at 8. I'll take the under at 8.
Okay. Pat.
I like the Rams this year. I know they lost Aaron Donald, but before the draft even, I said if there's a player closest to Aaron Donald in this draft, it's Jared Verse. And then they let him fall to the Rams. And I was like, it's a pretty good fit. They pair him up with his teammate, Braden Fisk. It's a great pairing. Bring two of the better college defensive linemen in the draft back together. Tre'Davious White was a good pickup. Darius Williams was a solid pickup. Looking like they're going to do something with Colby Parkinson. I don't know what the plan with him is, but I know Higbee's out, so Cameron Curl and Jonah Jackson are both solid players that can start at any given point. I like this team. I think with a more healthy season, I think they're a 9-10 win team. I think they could even hit 11 possibly. I am on the over on them. I do think they'll be solid.
So with that being said, are you picking them to win the division? Because I think you have all your wild cards.
Yeah, you used the last one on Arizona.
Yeah, no, I think Arizona beats them out for the wild card spot. I said Arizona has 10 wins. I think Arizona beats them out.
Wait, Pat, so it's my argument with the Bears. You think the Rams get like that 8 or 9 seed, and
I think the 8 and 9 will be the not the Cowboys, the Bears and the Rams. Sorry,
so the Bears and Rams are just going to miss out.
To the Cowboys. And that's where I think I could flex throughout the year. Maybe I could see the Rams or the Bears potentially filling into that spot instead of the Cowboys.
Right.
So Pat, speaking of, before we move on, the Bears play the Rams early in the season. And do you think that the potential winner of that game makes the playoffs and the potential loser is out? Is that going to be the scenario?
Well, that could very well be the tiebreaker because I do think I have the Cowboys, Rams, and Bears all finishing with the same record, if I'm not mistaken. So if they all finish with the same record and the Rams own the tiebreaker or the Bears own the tiebreaker, that could be the influence that puts one team over the rest. But
interesting. Okay. Just feel I had to mention that before we moved on. So,
all right, we got one more team we got to go through, guys, and obviously we're running a little bit out of time. So let's go through San Francisco. Obviously losing a couple of pieces in Chase and Eric, getting names like Leonard Floyd, Devondre Campbell, Isaac Yiadom. They picked up Ricky Pearsall to get Brock Purdy another weapon. But guys, once again, we started, very early on in this preview show. We talked about a name that's at the center of everything in CeeDee Lamb. Here, it's Brandon Ayuk. As of this time that we're recording this, there's no update on Ayuk. We still don't know if either he's going to stay put and sign an extension or if he is getting traded. One of those two things is a possibility, and I mean, it's crunch time, guys. It's the end of August, so we got to make a decision on Brandon very quickly. I know Nick Morganson has told me on ETB Sports he thinks San Fran could be a different team, but Brandon Ayuk is not there. I don't know if I would go that far. However, if Brandon Ayuk is not there, I don't know if they have the Super Bowl. I don't know if they can reach the Super Bowl again if Brandon Ayuk is not there. Brandon Ayuk, I won't say that he doesn't, if his elimination does not eliminate this team from the playoffs, but having him does make them that extra special team that could potentially get back to the big dance.
I'll go.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, I am very intrigued by this question mark with Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I thought that he was going to get traded to the Steelers, like right after the trade, discussions.
Well, funny enough, we talked about Jahan Dotson with Washington before at the start of the show. Washington is another potential location for Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me that, Tom.
By the way, no problem. Oh, by the way, the over-under is 11.5 for the 49ers. I'm going to take the over. I still think they win the division. They're dominant as a 12 or 13-win team.
I will also take...
Or even a 14-win team.
I will also take the over on them, because, I mean, just Kyle Shanahan, like Sean McVay, is one of the brightest offensive minds in the NFL right now. He's probably top 3, only behind Andy Reid and Sean McVay. Or maybe, and honestly, you could flip Sean McVay and Shanahan. It doesn't. It's your own opinion. But I still think that this team is a highly caliber playoff team, and they will probably make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know who they'll play, but I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be in the Super Bowl again.
All right. Pat?
I see the Niners being an 11, 12, 13 win team, somewhere in that range. I think they'll be competing for the 1 seed in the conference again. And I think they'll be good. I mean, they're the Niners, man. They've been good for years. It's the same team. I know they lost some guys, but they got a couple good ones too. I think Ayuk will come back. I think it'll all resolve itself. That seems to be the direction it's heading in.
I agree. I think Brandon, just like I said with CD and the Cowboys, I think Brandon Ayuk and 49ers work themselves out. Plus, again, like their situation, they need one another. They need Brandon Ayuk to be that Super Bowl caliber team. And Brock Purdy needs Brandon Ayuk because when he comes up for negotiations, obviously all the guys on the 49ers, Brandon, Christian McCaffrey, Debo getting paid, Brock Purdy's going to need a payday next. Obviously, like Nick talked about last week or 2 weeks ago with me, maybe fair market value and consider the talent that he has now versus what he would work with talent anywhere else, but he still would need to get paid nevertheless. Zan, so what do you think? Do you think Brandon Ayuk comes back, and where do you think things stand with San Fran?
I do. I mean, this is my NFC West champion. If you can't already tell, to fill out the 4 divisions here, and again, I do think Ayuk comes back. As Pat alluded to, it's essentially the same team. They should run through their schedule just at a quick glance. I mean, this team has a chance to start probably 6-0, I would say. Before playing the defending Super Bowl champions in the Super Bowl rematch, which is probably going to be one of the toughest NFL tickets to get all year. That's probably the first game that they'll drop is to Kansas City at home. But overall, this is a team that can win 11, 12, 13, as you alluded to, Tom, 14 games. Will be fine. Not only is this my NFC West champion, not only is this a number 1 seed, but I actually do think they get back to the Super Bowl and represent the NFC again with astute revenge on their minds, if you will. So
going over here, Zan, I'm in complete agreement with you. I have them going 14-3 as the number 1 NFC seed, and we'll talk about it more towards the end of the week. But they are also going to be my NFC representative in the Super Bowl.
Outstanding.
I will agree with both of you, Tom and Zahn. I it's just that the 49ers are too overpowering. I think that they get back to the Super Bowl. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's another matchup of
It very well may be.
and Chiefs. And honestly, I mean, I don't know who to root for if that's the case, because I kind of want the Chiefs to get the three-peat, but I also kind of want the 49ers to win.
So they would make the most intriguing. I know people are going to say it's ridiculous, but it would make the most intriguing matchup if the Chiefs and 49ers maybe made it back. The only exception might be if Detroit somehow makes the Super Bowl.
Right. I'm going to say, just to add one last thing to my last point, my three losses that the 49ers will suffer, it's going to be the Bills, Miami, and the Chiefs are going to be the three games that San Francisco loses.
Those are very good predictions for those losses. I will say that's good.
So Pat had his third wild card coming out of the West as the Cardinals. I am going to say, guys, that Pat, you went on that whole rant about Seattle. I think the air raid works. I think the new offensive coordinator brings some new energy, whether that be Geno Smith getting a little shot again of momentum, or they make the switch to Howell. And I think just like a couple of years ago, last week of the season, Seattle manages to sneak into the playoffs as a 7th seed. I think they lose their first round matchup, but I think they sneak in.
Yeah, no, I have the Niners winning this division, and I guess this is somewhat of a hot take compared to what you guys had said. I think there will be two teams in the competing for the NFC when it comes down to the end of the season, and I think those teams will be the San Francisco 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
I think it'll come down to a two-man race in the last week or two of the season, and those two teams,
not the Lions, Packers, or Cowboys.
I just think those teams will all be good, in my opinion. It's just I think with the Falcons' schedule, their division, just all of that, I think they'll end up winning about 12 games, maybe even push it to 13. So and it's something Kirk's done before. He did it with the Vikings 2 years ago. This isn't it's not the most out of the world. It's not out of the question with Kirk. It's definitely, it's a take. It's a take for sure. I know it is. Right. But I do have the Cardinals making the wild card spot. The Rams could easily win a tiebreaker to make a wild card spot. I have them finishing with the same record as wild card teams. So it just depends on tiebreakers, which I really don't want to predict tiebreakers.
We don't have to go that crazy. Yeah, plus, we still have Thursday to do. But make sure you join us tomorrow for the AFC preview. We have the AFC teams to go through, so you're going to see the other half of football.
I'm sorry. Hold up. Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $136 million contract that now makes him the second highest paid wide receiver ever.
Now I'm loving my pick. Let's go, Cowboys.
Okay, so we end today here, guys, with breaking news. With the CeeDee Lamb, obviously it's not breaking to you guys, but you have our live reactions now.
Yep.
With CeeDee Lamb. Actually, let me get that off the screen. You know what? This might be good for Nick Morgeson for us to just do this right here. Let's just do it right here, guys. Wow. So, in a little bit of breaking news, CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys have reached an extension.
The second highest paid non-QB in NFL history.
Wow.
So he's under Jefferson, right?
Yes, he has. I think Jefferson is 4 for 140.
Yes.
He is 4 for 136. $100 million guaranteed.
Good for him. This man getting paid.
Okay, so potential.
Good job, Jerry. Good job, Jerry. Good job, Jerry. You did it.
I told you I'd do it. I told you I would get the deal. I told you I wouldn't have to make him the highest paid.
As a Giants fan, thank you, Jerry.
As a guy who drafted both Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb in one of his fantasy leagues,
he's jumping for joy.
Jerry Jones. Thank you.
Jumping for joy.
Okay.
As someone else who also drafted CD Lamb in one of his fantasy leagues. I am absolutely ecstatic.
As someone who owns CD Lamb in Dynasty, thank you, Jerry Jones. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And you know I have one question left for you boys.
About damn cowboy.
How about them Cowboys?
It's about damn time, though. CD deserved the money. I think CD
Okay,
deserved the money.
absolutely.
So this leaves two questions. One,
Okay.
Zen, are you going to change your pick now that this is official, or do you still have the Eagles winning the division?
I think I'm gonna have. We're flip flopping. So the Eagles
Okay.
win the wild card. The Cowboys win the NFC East. Yes.
Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I think Pat, you had the division.
Yeah,
I have-
I was the only one, and I had the Cowboys.
Okay. Okay.
Are you
Yeah.
doing the flip flop?
I will not be doing the flip flop.
Ooh.
My prediction was assuming CD Lamb was on the team this season.
Wow.
The Cowboys could very well,
Wow.
they could definitely do better than I expect. I know I'm lower on them, but
Unbelievable.
I'm all good.
So here's the other question that we'll end on because we're way over time, but it's a little bit of breaking, and I guess this can go out on social if Nick Morkison wants it. Because you mentioned it before. So what does this mean then? Actually, I'll make it 2 points. One, what does this mean then for Jamar Chase? And two, actually, never mind. I'm gonna make it 3 questions.
Okay.
One, what does this mean for Jamar Chase when it comes to his hunt? Two, on that same team, you have T. Higgins who requested out of Cincinnati. Is he going to go forward with it, especially if Jamar gets the contract? 3, what happens with Justin Jefferson now? That if Minnesota has the season that we think he is, does he cause a headache, and could he request out with his current contract?
I think these are 2 hypothetical questions to answer right now. But what I will say is Jamar Chase, wherever he is, he's got to be. He's sweating bullets, and his PR person is probably frantically scrambling to figure out what his next move is because he's going to be the talk of the NFL conclusion to the offseason tree, if you will, before the season starts.
Yeah, because it's not like CD. It's not like CD usurped Jefferson. Jefferson is still the top, so I don't know how you can pay Jamar when CD is getting this kind of contract.
Right.
All right, you guys.
I wonder. I'm gonna put on the tinfoil hat and do one of those conspiracy thing. I wonder if somebody in Jamar's camp got wind that something was going on with CD, which is why he reported back to camp recently.
I could argue that obviously we have no proof of it, but just from a logical perspective, it could have very well easily been possible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with everything that my man above me said. With CD Lamb, I mean, he deserves all of this money, and I am so happy that CD is back for the Cowboys. And it's that I never expected him not to be. It's just, why did it take so long?
Yeah. Now that it's actually happened, it's like, let's go. Come on. Good
because
job.
I love my money, damn it.
All right, but let me say, I think this is going to mean a bit for the rest of the wide receivers, just in not free agency, but just looking for a contract in general. You have Ayuk looking for that contract. He wanted more than Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra got 4 for 120, so I think Ayuk will probably be in that 125-ish range, maybe.
I guess that was part of the question. I forgot about Ayuk, but it's like now that CD is done, are all the other dominoes going to fall into place?
And then you asked about Jamar too. So Jefferson is 4 for 140. CD is 4 for 136. I think Jamar will be 4 for 138. I think he's going to split them right down the middle. I think he's going to split them right down the middle.
Pat, I think you hit that right on the bone.
I think so. What then, guys, is going to be the fate of T. Higgins? Is he going to continue to request out?
Probably.
Because they're not going to be able to keep both, and Jamar obviously has earned the contract. So if you're Cincinnati, I don't think you can do it now, but at the end of this season, you're going to have to trade T, right?
Probably.
Unless he has another disappointing year and starts asking for less.
And that probably will.
I know.
Well, actually, I want to look at T. Higgins' contract because does he have another year?
No, he's a free agency. He's a free agent.
He is a free agent. So they're not. So basically, what this means is that basically this is his T. Higgins last year on the Bengals, most likely.
Probably.
And if T. Higgins if he bounces back after last season, you're looking at T. Higgins as probably the biggest free agent in next year's market, or one of them.
I could see that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a way to end the first part of this preview. So join Nick DiMartino, Nick Morgeson, Ben Cruz, and Anthony Ballister tomorrow for the AFC portion of the NFL preview. And then most of us will be there on Thursday for the playoff picks, the early award predictions, hot takes, all that good stuff. So we'll see you then.
I should be there, Pat. Are you planning to be there? Grant, are you planning to be there?
I should be there, yes, barring anything.
I've got to.
When is it?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that off camera. Let's wrap because we're way over time here. So, Zain Bando for Grant Winsauer and Pat Danna. I'm Tom Albano. We'll catch you next time. Stay tuned tomorrow for the AFC preview. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one,
everyone.